Well, hello everybody, it's Dr. Drake 63 here again today, welcoming you to my man cave workshop, if you will. And today on the workbench, we're going to look at a new rifle that we picked up today. They say good things come in plain packages, and this cardboard box here is about as plain as you can get. Let's take a look at what we have. Ooh, BCM Bravo Company. Somebody told me they make pretty decent AR type rifles. Well, we're going to take a look at this one. The one we purchased and that we're going to do a review today is a 14.5 inch carbine. These guys even include a hat. How do you like that? I like that a lot. We're going to take a look at what we have here. Outside of a metal magazine, which from an AR standpoint means you're a man after my own heart. Well, let's take a look at what we have here. First of all, just a plain paper box. But what's inside is not so plain. These guys really know how to pack them. You can see this is actually handwritten, which is kind of cool. RECCE-14 KMRA. What that is this dog right here. A direct impingement AR-15 that we're going to unwrap and talk about. You know, companies that do things like give me a cool hat or give me decals are after my heart to start with. In addition to that, they included a nice little hex wrench for those of you that might have a need to tighten things up. But let's talk about this particular rifle in particular and get right into it. This is the BCM RECCE RECCE. I'll explain what that means later as soon as I figure it out. Why did I go BCM? Why would I do something like that? Well, in my particular firearms family, in terms of semi-automatic rifles, I had a pretty gaping void, for lack of a better word, and that was a quality 5.56/223 variant. And I've been kind of looking for top-of-the-line stuff. Interested in getting the best quality and the best reliability you can get. Not interested in impressing other people. I'm not interested in what anybody else thinks. I'm interested in what kind of firearm I can get, because as you might realize from watching my videos, I'm just a bit into this. You can see that this has a mid-length gas system, a free floated rail, so I'm expecting some decent accuracy out of this. Barrel's going to be chrome lined, cold hammer forged, all that good stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about specs more as we go on. Instruction manual that this comes with is kind of cool. It appears to be one that was made for the Army. Now, I'm not aware of BCM making a bunch of ARs for the Army, but they're ready for it nonetheless. So, I'll be sure to read this some night when I'm busy. Also comes with this famous lock. Man, I've got a collection of those dogs. And as I mentioned, nice metallic magazine. This one's stamped BCM. Like I said, I'm a man who prefers the metallic magazine. So We're about done with that box, and we shall put it away. Okay, well, the first thing we're going to do is pull back this charging handle and rid ourselves of the flag, as they call it. You see that what we have here is a nice looking AR that does have a bolt hold open mechanism, of course. Okay. Dump that out. And there we go. You see this has the what's called the gunfighter charging handle, which is an ambidextrous. Very easy to engage with either hand with gloves on, whatever you want to do. Other features on this, it's a little bit different. If you look, you see that there's a additional chamber added on the inside there. So it's not the bird cage. It kind of looks like it from the outside. Here on the left side, there's a rail installed on this key mod. And you've got a nice long section of Weaver style 1913 Picatinny, however you want to call it. I've actually heard that the proper way to refer to this is a Weaver style rail, but I've heard it a lot of ways. So what you basically have is a basic AR. And now we're going to take a look at what this trigger's like. Try that again. I like it. It is not mil-spec-ish at all. There's no grind, there's no scratch, there's no creep. Feels like it pulls at about 5 pounds. We'll check that spec for you. Gotta like it. Something else I really liked about this rifle. The buttstock. You're going to pay over $1,000 for a rifle. I don't want to have a wobbly buttstock. You'd be surprised at the ones that do at that price range. This one locks up nice and tight, and I like that. I like that a lot. Typically, I'm going to pull this all the way out. Really love this stock in terms of there's no wobble whatsoever. It's got integral metallic QD mounts right here, so it's not plastic that it's snapping into, but this isn't moving at all. And this is how you adjust it, and it locks up tight. So I'm a big fan of that. Big fan of that. Taking a look here, you can see that BCM RECCE-14. You've got another QD mount here. Again, this is real nice for attaching to, and this feature right here prevents heat from separating this handguard from the rail that's on the top receiver. So that's pretty slick. Just moving up to the front, you can see we've got a rail. This is where I'd put a light. If you look in here, you can see the gas block. It's a micro gas block, mid-length gas system. Again, keep in mind this is a 14.5-inch barrel. So you have to have 1.5 inches here, minimum, to get to 16 inches with this muzzle device. And that's on there. Can't just be unscrewed or you're not within spec. If you look down, take a close look, you can see that that is a pinned gas block. Okay, and what's the difference? If you see a hex bolt in there, then those typically need to be staked so they won't work loose. This is pinned. So that's not going anywhere. So I was talking about the flash hider earlier, and as you can see, you've got this chamber. It's kind of a cone that's convex that comes back in to the flash hider. And what that's going to do is that's going to create a multi-chamber effect, which is a smart idea for a muzzle device. But working our way down the firearm, it's got the flared Magwell, which you kind of need to have these days. It just makes sense for quick change. I like that. Simple controls, safe and fire. Instead of the straight across trigger guard on across the bottom, it's got the curve, which allows you to get a glove in there. And as you can see here on the bottom, you've got a compartment. So this is hollow. I like this grip. One thing that I like about this grip versus the Daniel Defense, I don't like a rubberized grip, which is one thing that really came into play on the furniture. I am a simplicity guy, and I like this style of furniture over the Daniel Defense style of furniture. I like it a lot. Now, there's going to be a lot of guys that say, "Are you nuts, Drake? What are you talking about?" Well, it's a personal preference thing. I tend, especially in the summertime, I tend to get a little bit of the sweaty palm thing going. And you combine that with that rubberized glass-filled grip on a Daniel Defense rifle, and I don't like how tacky that feels. This is going to be a lot more, if you look at the texture, it's very much more like a handgun, what you'd see on a handgun texture, where guys will go out and get their grips on their Glocks contoured like that, so that they're nice and rough. So to each their own. Okay, I'm looking at this castle nut here, and you can see that that is properly staked. So why is that important? You don't want that working loose. Taking a look at that bolt carrier group, things you look for, is that bolt properly staked? The answer is yes. For those of you that are saying, well, what does that mean? That means that there's a score in the metal that extends into the bolt. So that's not going to budge. This is a very nice bolt. You're gonna pay good money for this. It's chrome lined. It's made out of the right types of materials, and they ship this wet, nice and lubed. Now, interestingly enough, the guy at the gun store today told me I was going to probably do this. He told me I'd probably put on these Daniel Defense fixed sights I already had on this BCM just because they were so dang good. And he's right. To start things out, we get into putting a magnified optic or something on them, and that might be a different story, but these are the best iron sights I've ever had. But the only thing that's kind of rivaled it has been Skinner peep sights on a lever action. So here I'm doing a little bit of what I call NASCAR. I've got my BCM rifle, and right on top of that is Daniel Defense, which is kind of funny. But you know what? Who cares? Best of both worlds. Why not have the best of everything when it comes to this? Sometimes a man has to go ahead and spoil himself a bit. When it comes to firearms, I'm not afraid to do that. Looking at this beautifully built rifle has a simplicity that's very appealing to me. I'm not a guy that's interested in oversized magazine releases, ambidextrous safeties, and the like. I like the classic look of a standard traditional M4 with some upgrades, of course, such as the slim floated handguards and things of that nature. But I also like an M4, an M16 look, the AR-15 look. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against doing things different. I probably would have picked up a bronzed or even an FDE version of this firearm if it were available where I picked it up. It was not. So today we did go with the standard black rifle look. Cerakote may be in the future, we'll see, but as always with my firearms, first and foremost, it's a tool. So while I do expect it to look less pretty over time, more importantly, I expect it to function the way I need it to. I think every gun enthusiast ought to spoil themselves every now and then, and I notice, at least in my case, over time, I've really evolved in terms of what is acceptable for me in terms of a semi-automatic firearm, a hunting rifle, whatever. And I don't have to have the most expensive stuff. I mean, if you look at my Glock series, you'll know um, I have a lot of faith and a lot of confidence and a lot of love for the $500-600 pistol. Um, so it's not an issue of, oh, I think if you spend more, you're automatically getting something better, because I know better than that. But in the world of ARs, when you talk about the ability to have something that has good functionality, that has good reliability, that has a beautiful finish, that's put together nice and tight, which a lot of us like. Some of us don't mind the rattles. But something that's properly constructed and something that you feel good about every time you shoot. Anymore, that's going to cost you money, and that's true in the world of AKs. That's true in the world of ARs, and somewhere along the line, when it used to be, pretty much just Colt and everybody else trying to have something that looked like a Colt, you've got a number of manufacturers, BCM, Daniel Defense, LaRue, LWR. I mean, there's a few obviously I'm probably not mentioning. I don't want to offend anybody, but you got a number of folks that have put a lot of care into the finish, the fit, making sure that all the internals from the trigger to the bolt group are top of the line. And you compare that, and I look back to my first builds that I did with Palmetto State Products, and not knocking them at all. They lasted, nothing ever broke, but you tended to have kind of a chalky finish and a little bit of a rattle, and you need to do things like use a piece of plastic or a wedge or something to have the upper and the lower fit tightly together. And here, not the case. And again, like same thing happened with AKs. Everybody thought about AKs as being cheap rattle traps that had no accuracy, and along come companies like Arsenal, along come custom shops like Krebs or Rifle Dynamics or whatever. So there's always a market for folks that want a better quality, better looking, tighter tolerance firearm, and there you go. So looking at my continuum. Is it good enough to have an AK anymore? Nah, I need an Arsenal, or even take it a step further, I need a Galil. And in terms of the AR world, something like a Bravo company is what I'm going to be looking for. Not just because the product's so good and superior to a lot of what's out there, but it's also a veteran-owned company, and I'm very much, as the father of an active duty military person, I'm very much into that. So I want to thank everybody for watching my unboxing video today. It's probably a little bit longer, a little bit more detailed, and all this time and no shooting. We'll cover that next time, though, and talk about function, talk about breakdown and cleaning. We'll talk about what kind of accuracy we can get. I expect it's going to be pretty decent. So this is Dr. Drake 63, thanking you once again for watching. Appreciate you watching my unboxing of the BCM 14.5 inch. Remember, guys, support the National Rifle Association. We want to be able to keep getting this kind of stuff.